95.7 The Hog, Daytona's rock station. Riggs, Steve, and the third member of our broadcast team, also now our official staff photographer. That is Mark Weiss!
Woo! The Weiss guy.
Hey, how you doing?
True Weiss guy.
Thanks for having me.
Well,
Thanks for stopping by.
You're a legend. And if people, I'm sure you find this all the time, people know you even if they don't know you. They know your work, right?
Yeah, they know me as my little photo credit on the side of the pictures when they had magazines back in the day.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. And we know, like, I mean, Circus Magazine, obviously the biggest, but I mean, you've been everywhere, for crying out loud. And for those who don't know, the Decade That Rocked book, which is right, I'm holding it right now, but it takes, believe me, I'm glad I did some pull-ups earlier. This thing's hefty. This is a coffee table book.
6 pounds, 2 ounces.
Really?
It's like a baby.
Mackerel.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I should do curls with this, bro.
You could. Yeah. Book curls.
It's you're going to be. We need to tell people you're going to be in Jacksonville this weekend with not only this book but a bunch of your work, right?
That's correct. Yeah, I'm going to have over 50 of my photographs and some embellished canvases that Mikhail Pellicone, artist, is embellishing, and she's actually embellishing CBGB's photograph that I shot in 1987 of Guns N' Roses.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So they'll be on display, and we'll have some live action there, and I'll be there telling you my stories and just hanging out. And if you have any questions, I'm there. So
that's super cool.
Yeah. So Saturday 6 to 8, and Sunday 1 to 3.
Gallery 725 in Jacksonville.
Jacksonville, yeah.
This is a very cool thing. I mean, and let's face it, you are an artist because let me let you tell people some of the most iconic 80s album covers that you've seen. You took the pictures.
Wow. Well, my first album cover that I ever shot was Stay Hungry, Twisted Sister with Dee hitting that bone.
That's crazy.
So that was a built set in my studio
Really?
that I kind of fabricated and from the minds of Twisted Sister. I
Right.
made it come to life.
Yeah.
And then I did Wasp, The Last Command, and I did Slippery When Wet. All of them, the girl and the when it was called Wanted before that, when they were all dressed up like Billy the Kid, because that was the original title, and of course the infamous Garbage Bag of John writing Slippery When Wet.
Yeah, which is I mean, for people who don't know that story, that was I'm working at a record store, and I remember there's this forbidden Bon Jovi album cover, and they got to make a change. What was the shorter version of that story? Is what that you took this great picture for an album cover.
Yeah, it was called Slippery When Wet, and that's when the PMRC was coming down. I actually went to the PMRC with Dee Snider when he was fighting for this freedom of speech. And so that's right when all the Kmarts and the Walmarts and all the stores that were pretty much stocking most of these these albums, and the record company didn't want any hindering of sales of the item. So so they changed the title, they changed the image, they printed 200,000 copies already, so they went in the trash bag.
Yeah.
Funny enough, the trash bag ended up being the cover of Slippery When Wet. When John just came in the studio with a garbage bag, or he said, "You have a garbage bag, Mark?" And I said, "Yeah." He's like, "Okay, that's a water bottle." I said, "Yeah, I got one of those." So he's all right, spray it on it. And I still don't know what he's doing.
Right.
I sprayed it on with some water droplets. I added some oil to make it, more dramatic. And he just wrote one time, Slippery When Wet. He walked out of my studio, and I said, "Wait, John, don't you want to see the Polaroids?" He just sent it to the record company, done, let the music speak for itself.
He was over it at that point.
Yeah, and then, the rest is history, of course.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I mean, stories where you probably have a simple shoot, again, like maybe Dee in your studio, to more complex things. And then obviously in the book, you see these amazing live shots, in concert shots as well, which is a completely different discipline for what you do, right?
Well, I started sneaking my cameras in when I was a kid in the mid to late 70s and selling my pictures for $1 a piece. So at Kiss concert, they played 3 nights. So I went the first night, stayed up all night, and then I ended up selling them for $1 a piece out of my high school locker. And then I went with my buddy Glenn Bax to sell pictures, and I got arrested at a Kiss concert.
Really?
Yeah. Glenn went one way, I went the other way, and the cops got me, and I ended up in jail overnight.
Because you had a camera at a show.
Well, no, I was selling my pictures.
Oh, you're selling them. Okay.
They didn't want anyone making money.
Gene doesn't want that money.
So I ended up in this paddy wagon with all these shirt sellers, and there's this 17-year-old kid with 100 8x10 glossies, trying to hide them. Like they're all hiding their T-shirts. They look like pregnant women. And here I got my 111 by 8x10 sticking to my shirt. I said, all right, I guess that's what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
So, and then long story short, the next day I'm like, all right, now what am I going to do? So I looked at this Circus magazine, was just looking at me like, the glowing around it,
Right.
and I opened it up and it said, 157 West 57th Street. And I said, that's pretty close to where I got arrested. So I'm going to hop on the same train. And I went there and I just saw the art director. He saw me, took a liking to me. And 6 months later, Centerfold of Steven Tyler ended up being the biggest picture in the book. And then the ball started rolling. A year later, I'm shooting Van Halen for the first time with an assignment through Circus. And the ball just started rolling.
Yeah, and then you become sort of your own entity at that point when you start producing all these great images that other bands. I mean, obviously it gets contagious. I'm sure other bands say like, "Oh, I want that guy."
Well, then once so then I'm doing live photographs backstage. I did Peter Frampton, his publicity photos in '79. So I'm just really getting my feet wet with doing this and loving it. And any doors that were open, I would just bang it down even harder. And just meet people left and right. So then when Circus was doing a cover for Ozzy Osbourne, they said, "Hey, you want to do this cover?" I'm like, "Yeah." So it was one of my first covers for Circus magazine.
Right.
Wow.
And they said, "We also want to do this picture. Besides taking some cool photos of Ozzy for the cover, we want you to take these photos that we had this high school yearbook theme."
Okay.
And he was voted most athletic because he jumped around a lot.
Okay.
So I said, all right, I'm going to bring some boxing gloves. So I bought some boxing gloves, and Ozzy knew about the theme of it, so he decided to pick up a pink tutu. And so
makes sense.
Of course.
we put the pink tutu on him. I gave him the boxing gloves, and there was a pair of red cowboy boots in the corner that I said, "Hey, let's put them on." And that was the end up being the cover. Now, that wasn't supposed to be the cover. It was supposed to be a small black and white, so it didn't put me in good graces of the Osbourne camp until they started getting a lot of publicity. And then we started doing really crazy stuff like dressing up like a housewife. And the Easter Bunny. And
some of those pictures that are in your book are, and these are images most people probably have never seen, I would assume, right? I mean,
yeah. There's like this one shot of Skid Row before the album came out in '87 that I shot, and they were so glammed out. They were so glammed out. Their manager, Doc McGee, said to the guys, he goes, "This is not you. Take the hairspray out."
I had to look at the caption to be sure that's who that was, to make sure in that picture. Yeah.
The band didn't even, Doc said, "Just bury that,"
Yeah.
And the band never even saw it until it appeared in the book.
Right.
The book is The Decade That Rocked. Mark Weiss is with us. Stick around. We got more stories coming up on the Morning Hog on 95.7 The Hog.